welcoming people and so welcome friends. It's great to see people in this virtual fashion for today's final ETC meeting for 2021. My brain's already starting to learn how to say 2022, so apologies for that. We're super excited about today's agenda and discussion, and we'll be getting started shortly as we get a few more of our guests joining us. And yeah, we've got, I think, a really fascinating agenda today. I just have long time been fascinated about hydrogen technology. So when I heard that AAA was bringing hydrogen into their fleet, I thought, let's hear more about this, and have been able to invite Skylar. And we're also happy that Patty Kelly from New Day Hydrogen will also be here and able to answer questions as needed, and also be hearing more about RTD, and just that there's some great values on Ecopasses for this year. And Community Cycles did an amazing job this past summer getting people onto e-bikes. A lot of essential workers were able to get e-bikes, and these are people who may not have been able to get them on their own, and using them for transportation. It's just an incredible opportunity. And then we'll also want to just hear from you, have a breakout and discussion. So Amanda, if you could go on to the next slide. So a welcome to you. I'm Elaine. I am working in sustainable transportation with Boulder Transportation Connections, and we're now a division of the Boulder Chamber. We joined with the Chamber earlier this year, just in the efforts to reach more businesses. But our goal is, has been, and will be working with the Boulder business community, helping people with their transportation options. Of course, in the last year and a half, we've done a lot of work helping people on the teleworking, but we are seeing people returning to transit. I've been on the bus to get into work for the last 6 months, and it's been working out very well. We're really hoping we'll be able to reinvigorate carpools and van pools. Biking and walking have been very popular in the last year and will be going forward, we believe, as well. So we are a resource for you in figuring out the best options for your business. If you can go forward, yeah. So as I mentioned today, we're talking with AAA Colorado. Skylar will be kicking things off. Then we'll hear from RTD. We really wanted to make sure that people were aware of new pricing for 2022. We've also been doing a lot of work promoting the mobile ticketing options, which really can be a great opportunity for some business. We'll hear about the e-bikes for essential workers before the breakout session. Next. So with all that, I would love to introduce to you Skylar McKinley from AAA Colorado. Welcome, and thanks for joining us today, Skylar.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. Let me share my screen real quick. It's always a crapshoot, and when it works, it's nothing better. Well, yeah, thanks for having me. So I'm Skylar. I'm the Regional Director of Public Affairs for AAA here in Colorado. The AAA entity to which I belong is part of a 14-state AAA club. We've got about 10,000 employees across 14 states. All told, AAA has 65 million members. In Colorado, we have around 730,000. Hopefully, some of you are members. I can tell you that in Colorado, we've consistently been named one of the most community-minded companies in the state. We are, in our history, a not-for-profit. We continue to operate as a not-for-profit, and our history is a big part of that. I'm going to talk about hydrogen and what we're doing looking toward the future with an eye on that history, because there's a lot of parallels here that I think has really excited a lot of folks on our team. So for those who don't know, when AAA first came together in Colorado in 1922, 100 years next year, there was a huge infrastructure and technology issue. Coloradans wanted cars, which was at the time a cutting edge transportation technology, but the infrastructure just wasn't there. Some examples, there were no highways, there were no paved roads, so folks kept getting stuck in the mud. One reason we existed was to help kind of rescue folks who got trapped. It was pretty easy to get lost because nobody had taken the time to map out the state, and there weren't enough gas stations to support the car as a breakthrough transportation technology. So we came together as a not-for-profit, as at that time, sort of a hobbyist organization. We set to work, we got our hands dirty. We numbered the highways in the state. That numbering scheme is to this day still used by CDOT in the state of Colorado. We donated the first highway signs to the state of Colorado. We got the roads paved. We made the first ever driving maps, and we worked with partners to create filling stations. Because of all that, the car, again, a transportation technology that was fairly new to the world in the 20s, happened, and it became the dominant transportation technology in the state. So look, if you drive a car, truck, or SUV today, it's because we worked for that consumer choice. What we're talking about today is really what I see as our mission and our obligation to do it again with what we think is going to be the next great transportation technology, and that's hydrogen fuel cells. So to jump into it, how are we going to do that? How are we going to bring hydrogen to Colorado? Well, I think the best place to start is with our own fleet. We have an expansive contractor network. If you are outside of the Front Range and you call for assistance, it's probably through one of our contractors. But if you're in the Front Range, from Fort Collins all the way down to Pueblo, we own and operate our own fleet of north of 100 trucks. These are all internal combustion engine vehicles. They vary in size and in duty type, but what they have in common is that they spit out a lot of carbon emissions. Our biggest trucks run on diesel. Diesel is one of the least clean fuels you can imagine. And as a function of that, I think we, like every socially responsible organization in 2021, have to really confront two things. Number one, how do we decarbonize our own fleet and our own operations? And number two, how do we reckon with our own history of popularizing a technology that then did untold environmental damage, of course, the automobile. So we're starting by decarbonizing our own fleet. Like many fleet users across the country, we've considered electric. We looked at electric vehicles. There are some good use cases for electric vehicles, but for our purposes, battery electric vehicles did not make much sense. The number one reason is that if you're running a big truck, you need a bigger battery, which means you need a bigger truck and then a bigger battery, and you're kind of constantly chasing your own tail, which leads to a lot of inefficiencies and actually doesn't help you decarbonize that quickly. Separately though, if you're a AAA member, you know that if you call us, we need to get there quickly. That is our promise to you. We need to be able to consistently plan on refueling, and we need to be able to refuel in a matter of minutes. We also require all-weather performance. That includes not having any range diminution just because it's cold out, but also for our technicians, their tow truck is their office. They commonly will sit in those vehicles in sub-zero temperatures in some parts of the state, waiting until a call comes in. So we require some life support, some cabin heating and cooling, which of course also does not lend itself well to battery electric vehicles. So where were we? How do we decarbonize if battery electric vehicles weren't the workable solution? As it turns out, and as I've learned in this process that we've been working on for about a year now, battery electric vehicles are one type of electric vehicle. They are not the only type. In fact, there's also fuel cell electric vehicles. These are in operation very similar. Both types of EVs are propelled by an electric motor. They're both very quiet, zero emissions out the tailpipe. All that's different is how you put fuel into it and what that fuel is. Battery, of course, you plug into the grid, you charge the battery, power plant lives on the vehicle. Hydrogen works very similar to how we operate today with internal combustion engines. You split water molecules into hydrogen through electrolysis, which is powered with the way we conceive it by green energy. And then you fill up your fuel cell with that hydrogen, and the process kind of works backwards so that you get hydrogen out the tailpipe and a clean energy solution. So hydrogen has made a lot of sense for us as we look to roll these very pollution-heavy diesel trucks out of our fleet and start rolling in much cleaner trucks for a couple of reasons over battery electric vehicle. Battery EVs are cheaper, of course, but generally speaking, fuel cell EVs we think are going to come in at a per mile cost very similar to internal combustion engines. They have very, very quick fueling times. You can fill up at a fueling station just like you do at the gas station in a matter of minutes. So there is no waiting around for a battery to charge. There is no having to future-proof or future plan around charging times. You can refuel at any temperature. Your range is not really reduced to the same degree as battery electric vehicles in cold weather. We see this, of course, in consumer vehicles. If you have a Tesla or any EV, you're already seeing range reduction of at least 20% as the temperature starts to fall. Importantly, you can scale up. We can have big trucks without requiring huge batteries at a comparable size to what we're doing with petroleum. Mileage, of course, decreases, but not to the same degree when towing as battery electric. The only open question here, and the place where hydrogen is, of course, the weakest of all of our options, is that there is not a fueling and filling infrastructure network in Colorado, right? It's impossible to fill up a hydrogen vehicle in Colorado unless you work for NREL. So that's what we're hoping to change in partnership with New Day Hydrogen, a very future, and we've got Patty Kelly from New Day on this call. They are partnering with us and a lot of other fleet users and a lot of the tech companies and some of the manufacturers to explore, hey, how can we bring hydrogen to Colorado? Hydrogen, there are thousands of hydrogen vehicles on the road already in California. The Port of Los Angeles relies very heavily on hydrogen infrastructure there. There are consumer grade vehicles. So our vision here is we're going to, year after year, roll hydrogen trucks into our fleets. To hopefully, depending on how this all works, eventually we can have a completely carbon neutral out the tailpipe fleet use. But that's just kind of where it starts. Again, from our history, we helped bring the automobile to Colorado. That was, of course, powered by internal combustion. I think we have to reckon with the fact that we helped popularize transportation infrastructure that has created a lot of negative externalities environmentally. So the vision here is by creating, in partnership with New Day Hydrogen, fueling networks for our own trucks, we can then open up the motorist marketplace for consumer vehicles that operate on hydrogen. And the more that I have done research in this space, just as somebody who works in the automotive industry, the more that I think that hydrogen electric vehicles will be, for most Coloradans, their likely replacement for their internal combustion. The battery electric vehicles likely will not, except for those of us who live in urban environments that have robust charging infrastructures who don't commonly go to the high country. The reason I say that is that it meets motorist expectations very quickly. To go from internal combustion to hydrogen requires very little in the way of behavioral change. Doesn't require you, as so long as New Day Hydrogen and folks like us build out the fueling infrastructure, it doesn't require you to have a charging station at home. And because you fill up as quickly as you fill up an internal combustion, you don't have to change your lifestyle. It is meeting motorists where they are, as they already have their behavior set for the internal combustion. This just happens to have a much smaller carbon output. Broadly too, I think hydrogen vehicles are better for the vehicles Coloradans like to drive. Our weather typically demands to have all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive vehicles. The most popular vehicles sold in Colorado tend to be larger. Many of the automakers, in fact, don't make sedans or sell them in Colorado anymore. And as we mentioned, you can scale up hydrogen very quickly. Hydrogen is better for Colorado weather conditions because there is no range diminution as a function of cold weather. It can also travel across terrains, as many folks do in their vehicles, without having any of that range anxiety. I also think that the real silver bullet here for me for hydrogen is not a popular thing for me to say as somebody who works for an automobile association, but the only true carbon positive choice you can make is not to drive, right? We should be discouraging the use of automobiles as much as possible. Some folks will continue to drive, which is why my organization will continue to exist and try to reduce our own carbon receipts. But broadly, people should be taking buses. We should be rethinking how urbanism looks. We should be encouraging walking, biking, and mass transit. And hydrogen is a really elegant solution for mass transit for the same reasons it's really appealing for tow trucks. So we are looking ahead, I think, to getting some of the first trucks in our fleet in 2022, working to build out the first fueling station in 2022. There's a lot of excitement on the AAA side for this. And I think, if we look at the next 10 years in Colorado, there's going to be a blend of fuel options. And this is what every futurist says, is that there's no silver bullet solution for transportation. Many folks, EVs make sense. For a lot of folks, e-bikes make a ton of sense. And then for larger vehicles, I think hydrogen is the direction we're going to move. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
And people are free to unmute themselves if they have questions. I did have one I was hoping either you or Patty could address, which in recent articles I've been seeing, people are talking about hydrogen and calling it gray or green or blue. Maybe you could kind of help people understand what's different in those.
Yeah, and I can let Patty jump in, but I'll just give the 30,000 foot overview. There's a lot of ways you can make hydrogen. Some are more carbon intensive than others. What we envision is working with what's called green hydrogen. This is hydrogen generated through electrolysis relying on green energy. So it would have the lowest carbon footprint of any. In fact, it would be, as long as your input energy is green, your output energy is completely green as well. When you hear different color types like blue or gray, all of that relates to the amount of carbon generated to extract or create the hydrogen. And there are ways that are less carbon friendly, but faster. This is why I think hydrogen is such a useful bridge fuel, because you can use some of your carbon heavy infrastructure that is already in place in Colorado related to natural gas to generate hydrogen as you build that infrastructure out with, I think, the idea that eventually it's just all green. Patty, how'd I do? Did I get that right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And Skylar, let me just say, I just enjoyed your talk about AAA and why you guys are moving into hydrogen. And you said it so succinctly and so well. Of course, I'm a fan, so I'm convinced. But my company, New Day Hydrogen, is going to be producing hydrogen in an area that is labeled green. And that simply means that we are going to use the process called electrolysis on site, which is what Skylar alluded to. So electrolysis is splitting the hydrogen off a water molecule. You have oxygen as a byproduct that you can capture and sell, or capture and donate to hospitals, for example. Then the hydrogen molecule itself is chilled and compressed and put into a tank to then chemically react with the oxygen in the atmosphere and power an electric motor. It's way cool. And then what comes out of the tailpipe is water vapor. So some of that water that you use to make the hydrogen returns to the environment. And I also should note at this point that green hydrogen production through electrolysis uses a fairly small amount of water, which I know is a big issue for us in Colorado. So it uses about 1/8 of the amount of water that a restaurant will use in a day. So it's, it makes sense from that standpoint. Then the other two colors that you hear about most, again, refer to how the hydrogen is produced. Right now in our country and around the world, most hydrogen is produced in the color that they call gray or brown. And that is a process where they split the hydrogen from the methane gas molecule, and then you have carbon as a byproduct, as opposed to the way we do it, where we have oxygen as a byproduct. So while that process is still producing an energy source that is cleaner, maybe than just straight using gasoline, it's still, on the road to we could do better, which is why my company wants to do it greenly. And then blue is an area where you could make it from the methane, but instead of releasing that carbon into the atmosphere, you capture it in some way and either bury it back underground or somehow store it and use it for other uses. That technology is a bit unproven, and that technology is involves a variety of different types of ways to sequester and capture the carbon. And there's going to be you're going to see a lot of investing on a national level to improve that process. But right now, I'm personally not a believer that actually accomplishes what it sets out to accomplish. And the fact that we can make it through electrolysis is terrific. And I guess the Achilles heel to electrolysis is that we're taking electricity from the grid to split that water molecule. So in a sense, we're only as green as the grid. But in Colorado, fortunately, we've got a lot of renewables, and we have a lot of renewables in each of our communities that are actually being wasted because they can't be used on demand. Hydrogen has another benefit in that it supports the grid, because you can take that solar or wind when it's being generated, convert it into hydrogen and store it, and then vehicles can fuel on demand. And so, Excel and other energy providers really like it from that point of view, because it does give you some flexibility.
haven't seen other questions, so I'll throw in one more I had, which is at the moment carbon.
I have a
yeah.
question, Elaine.
Oh, go for it, Clark. Was that Clark? I see you are unmuted, but I don't see or hear you now.
I think he might have froze out. It seems his image looks frozen.
Okay, thanks. Well, in the meantime, I was going to ask about the cost, because at the moment, hydrogen is fairly expensive to produce. And do you think that this cost is going to come down as we get more creation, more establishment of both the vehicles and the production facilities?
Yeah, and Patty knows more about this than I do. I will say, yes, the cost will come down as the infrastructure is built out, and to a point where it's competitive with what we're already paying for internal combustion. But I think that's actually the wrong way to think about it. I would say that we have never internalized the external environmental cost of carbon, right? But it's dramatic. Just because it doesn't hit our ledger or doesn't hit the P&L doesn't mean it's not out there. And this is why we're dealing with all of the environmental catastrophes we're dealing with. So even if it turns out that hydrogen ends up being more expensive for us as a business, it's still cheaper when you consider the environmental cost of internal combustion. So the more that I talk to other businesses and other fleet users, this is what I'm trying to encourage, is that on a per mile cost, it's competitive. It might be a little bit more. But on the overall cost of doing business is going to be less, because you're just not doing that damage that, in the long term could preclude business in total. And I think that there is a world out there where there could be dramatic restrictions on the kind of operations you're allowed to conduct as a function of what we're going to have to deal with over the next century. To me, decarbonizing early at great cost, which I don't think it's going to be great cost, but decarbonizing, even if there's additional cost, is what's going to allow you to operate in a post-carbon world. But you get there on your own terms.
Yeah, and I want to bring up 2 points about that with cost. One, the first being that actually fuel cell electric vehicles are projected to be less expensive to fuel and operate and run than battery electric vehicles and internal combustion vehicles by 2027. Of course, that's a lot of projections, but like any new technology, like we had with solar and wind and everything, it's quite expensive to start with. And then as you scale and as you get more adopters and the technology gets better, you end up making it a reasonable cost. So that hasn't been a stopping place for our fleets, at least initially, because they understand that maybe right out of the gate, they'll be paying a little bit more, but it won't be long. The other thing is that the United States Department of Energy has done something that they call a hydrogen earthshot. And that means they're investing billions and bring the cost of green hydrogen down to $1 a kilogram by 2030. Just to give you guys an idea, a kilogram is larger than a gallon. So that's basically cheaper than $1 a gallon by 2030. They also have a goal of $2 by 2026. So if you can picture, paying, basically less than $2 a gallon by 2026, that's the goals. And the way they want to achieve this is by continuing to invest in and encourage companies like mine, who are going out on the ledge with all the capital costs to start with, by helping bring some of our capital costs down, by improving our electrolyzer technology and just improving every component part so that we can build our stations cheaper. And also all that money that's being invested into the grid that you guys have probably read about in the infrastructure bill, and also we'll see in the BBB bill, if that passes, as there's a lot of money going into the grid. So that benefits battery electric vehicles as well as hydrogen electric vehicles.
I think we have time for one more question. I think I see Clark back. Are you who asked it before?
Yeah, that was weird. I got dropped. I had a similar question about availability. So I'm with CU Boulder, do mostly TDM work, but also some electrification work, and helping think about how we decarbonize as well our fleet. We've got, I don't know, 600 vehicles. Most of them are smaller vehicles, but we do have some larger ones, trash trucks, buses, that kind of thing. Curious about availability and what the forecast is on that. I mean, we have a lot of limitations on what we can get. We have to go through the state bid list in general. We have to work out kind of the long-term costs and what it would take to replace a vehicle. So generally, we have to go with a less expensive one than one that has a markup. So question about availability, and then also kind of what you see coming down the pike in terms of grants and grant funding for vehicles.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Scott.
So I would just say where we're at is we can't just buy what we need off the shelf, right, yet. There is not a hydrogen powered tow truck, but there are a variety of companies that do refitting to make these vehicles operate off hydrogen. And as Patty will probably talk about, now is the right time for us to be doing this, because we believe that with some of the subsidies, grants made available, the cost is going to be roughly equivalent to just a new truck anyway. And then, of course, I think every day you see in the news, a new company has said, hey, we're going to try creating this hydrogen vehicle. So I think there is a world 15 years from now where we can just buy off the shelf a hydrogen tow truck. But until we get there, we're not assuming great costs. Of course, we are a private company, so making the case that like we have to buy a truck and then send it to this other company to then convert it to run on hydrogen as a business case is a lot easier to make than having to go through the state procurement process.
Yeah, and just to jump on that, Clark, you'll be happy to hear that a lot of that foundational groundwork is already started, that you'll be able to benefit from as you learn and consider hydrogen as an option. So as far as fueling stations go, to start with, our business model is that we partner with a fleet organization, and we're basically putting a modular fueling station on their site. They fuel, they go out, do their thing all day, come back and fuel again. And we don't have the same issue with charging, as I mentioned, we don't have to worry about that electricity use on demand, which it's somewhat dispatchable. So that works really well. We're talking to Via Mobility right now. They are in the process of acquiring a piece of land, and we'll put, we hope, one of our hydrogen fueling stations on that parcel. And in connection with that, we've had pretty high level talks with Excel, who have fleets there. Via Mobility will probably run a few transit buses, and we hope CU Boulder also takes a pilot, so they would fuel there. You get 300 to 400 mile range. You don't have to worry about is there traffic, or am I idling, or is it raining? And so that makes the pilot go a little easier. So that's where we're starting. As far as your procurement of vehicles, there are federal and state incentive programs, and we are technically, well, we're not technically, we are an electric vehicle. And so when we have inquired into that at both the state and federal level, we've been assured that those funds are available for our vehicles as well. And NREL just recently came out and along with the Colorado Hydrogen Roadmap, and recommended it as the choice for medium to heavy duty. And also NREL said light to medium duty that idle all day. So I don't know that Colorado Energy Office is there yet, but that has certainly been recommended by NREL. So I think you're going to see some of that difficulty kind of smoothed out for you as others, as we all progressively move forward with that. And of course, I'm available to you if you ever want to talk through some of the things that you immediately see as obstacles, so we can address them. I had a great call yesterday with Grace Rink in the city of Denver, and got kind of the same, oh, I've got to go through so many committees to get approval to get these vehicles and that kind of thing. So it's just something we're working on every day.
Elaine, you're muted.
I think I clicked twice, but thank you both, Skylar and Patty, for this great information. I feel like it's the beginning of a conversation, not an end point. I did see one more question in chat, and maybe one of you can address that, but I want to move us on now. And next up is Raina with RTD. We wanted to just let people know that there's some big changes for Ecopasses this year. So I'll let Raina speak to this, and we hope we get even more businesses signing up for Ecopass and transit options. So welcome, Raina.
Thank you, Elaine. Hello, everyone. My name is Raina Cuvias, and I've been working with RTD for 19 years. And I am one of the market development consultants, and I'll be happy to answer as much as I can about the programs. My expertise is about the Ecopass, mobile ticketing, and other programs that RTD offers. So right now, I'm gonna give you an overview about the Ecopass program and both mobile ticketing programs. Okay, so I will start with the Ecopass program. Next slide, please. Okay, so Ecopass, what is the Ecopass program? Ecopass is an annual smart card only available to participant employers, okay? And these employees can ride unlimited rides on buses or trains and all over the regional, local services. The only exception on these are gonna be the special services such as senior ride, Broncos ride. We also have buff rides during this season, you know. And this program offers flexible options, employer paid. We also have the employee paid and the share, employer-employee cost share. So these three allows to use the pre-tax dollars, and this can be done through your payroll department. So that one is gonna be a good program that we can offer you. The price is based on employer location and the total head count. We have different service level areas. We have to check exactly where the company is located at. And also we have tiers for the prices. So we provide, when a company contact us, we need that information, the company physical address where the employees work and the total head count at the company. And so right now, normally RTD requires that employer has to enroll all full-time employees on company payroll. But due to the COVID-19, RTD has been more flexible. This is gonna be more flexible this coming year. They are allowing to exclude any remote employees. Like in my case, I'm working remotely at home, so I don't use the transit right now. A lot of companies, they have remotely employees or hybrid mode. So they are working, they are going once or twice a week, and they can exclude the remote employees, okay? So Ecopass is valid for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, including holidays. And this includes any, like I said before, all buses and trains services, including to and from the airport, okay? And the contracts are valid for a calendar year from January to December, prorated if it started later during the year. Right now, we're working in renewal contracts for existing employers and new companies interested to start the Ecopass for next year. Right now, I'm gonna go ahead and talk about the Ecopass pricing matrix that you see right now on your screen. So we have different SLAs. What SLA means is service level areas. We have 4, A, B, C, and D. Over there in Boulder and surroundings, we have 3 SLAs, A, B, and C. So the prices are gonna be, you can see right here the breakdown, 1 to 24 employees, 25 to 249, 250 to 999, and so on. So, and you can see also contract minimum per year right here next to the SLA. You can see 1,368. So an example of that, when it's gonna apply for the company is gonna be, for example, company is located on SLA, and they only have like 3 employees. If you multiply 68 times 3, it's gonna be less than 1368. So automatically the contract minimum is gonna be required. We don't sign up companies under the contract's minimum. So these are right here, the contract minimums per year that we apply for the contracts. And as you can see, that's why Elaine was mentioning that the prices right now during this year, coming years, they are so low. And the reason why is because we use a utilization method to calculate the prices. And so we use utilization data from 2020 to do these calculations that you're seeing right now. And what happened, as everybody knows, that we have low ridership during 2020, the COVID-19, nobody was riding, just 20 or 40%, I think, of passengers were riding. So the price dropped drastically, and that's a good thing for companies, because we can offer good prices for companies. Right here, you see 68, 64. The C SLA, this one used to be like 628, and right now, right here, the first tier is only 128. So we are offering good prices, and Ecopass is the most cost-effective program that we can offer you. After this, we are going to explain about the mobile ticketing, but I don't know if you have any questions about the Ecopass pricing right now. Any specific question? Yeah, in Boulder, you don't have any SLA. You don't have SLAD. The SLAD is for the airport, but I have to include on this presentation. So yeah, don't worry about the SLAD. You don't have SLAD. I saw that something on this chat. Okay, so probably one of the questions that you're gonna ask, I'm gonna just that's fine. You can keep that one, but I just want to mention something because a lot of times I got the question: what happened if I sign up and then I sign up for 50 employees and then I hire extra employees through the year? So what happened is after you sign up, you hire new employees, you can order passes for them immediately. You will not be charged for these new hires during the year, and we won't issue credits when employees leave your company. We only evaluate the headcount once per year during the initial contract enrollment or during the renewal season. You still be required to administer your account through the year and deactivate any passes belonging to employees that are leaving your company or have been terminated. I just wanna, on this, the Ecopass pricing, I wanna give you an example. Some smaller company has 18 employees in SLAB, for example. So the price is gonna be 64 times 18. So the total is gonna be 1,152. That automatically is gonna apply the contract minimum of 1,368 because it's under the price, okay? And I also have another example here, another sample that a large employer corporation with 360 employees in SLA, 360 times the price of 32. It's gonna be the third tier. The total is gonna be 11,520. So you can see the difference because sometimes we send including this information to coordinators with the renewals and they say, I don't understand exactly what you're talking about. So we have some tiers and SLAs and we have to explain the coordinators how this works. So it's based on kind of like a insurance model, that we have. So now there is another option that the guarantee ride home is the next slide.
But before we move on to that, can I just ask a quick question related to, you were saying like if the number of employees increases, that the company wouldn't have to pay more throughout the year. Is the same true if, say there's 100 employees total right now, but 50 of them are working remotely? So does the pricing just based on the number of employees on site? And if they were to come back into the office mid-year, does that affect the pricing for next year?
That's a good question. Yes, because we are allowing to exclude from the initial contract. You're gonna only sign up for 50. And then if they're coming back later around through the year, you don't have to pay for them. that's the opportunity that is RTD is working right now with all the companies, you know, because we are in the same situation, so they are allowing to do that, and that probably is going to be a good help, you know, for companies, because it's going to lower the total contract price.
Great. That's, I just want to say that's very helpful, because I know so many companies, it's just so unpredictable right now and don't know when employees are going to be able to return fully. So that's really, thanks to RTD for doing that and being flexible with that.
Thank you. And another thing that I would like to add is that when they sign up in the mid-year, you know, we're going to prorate it. Unless that is under the contract minimum, it's going to apply the contract minimum. Otherwise, they're going to be prorated. For example, if you have a company that had 200 employees, we're going to prorate it in June. For example, if you sign up in June, we're going to prorate it depending on the price per person at that month. Any other questions? No? Okay, so now I would like to talk about the additional option that Dr. Cog offer, you know, to RTD. Right now we are offering the Guaranteed Ride Home. Is an optional benefit that may be added to the Ecopass program, and this guarantees to employees a free taxi ride home from the office in the event of unplanned schedule changes, illnesses, or other situation. For example, if you have a child at the school and you get a phone call and say, you know what, your child got sick and you need to come pick him up. So, and you don't have a car at that time because you're riding RTD buses or trains. So you can use this service that Dr. Koch offer for a minimum time fee, $3 per year for a full year, okay? So it's not per month, it's $3 only for the full year for Metro Denver and Boulder employers, and $5 for the airport companies, but we don't have any airport companies. So that one is a good additional option, you know, that you can add to the Ecopass program. We don't charge this amount on the same contract, but we're gonna provide you the information so you can sign up, because we are working with Dr. Koch and we offer this service also. I don't know if anybody has any question about the Guaranteed Ride Home. No? Okay. We're gonna go ahead and move on to bulk mobile ticketing. This is the alternative that we are offering, because some of the employers say, no, I'm not able to include all my employees, or I only have 2 and I don't think so I'm gonna sign up for Ecopass. So we are offering this alternative, the bulk mobile ticketing. This is an electronic ticket, okay? It's not a paper ticket. And this allowed tickets and passes to be issued to riders' phones directly from the ticket wallets in bulk and via upload. So what happened is you will need to sign up a contract with RTD, one-time contracts for conference and events. We also work with government agencies, school, TMOs, neighborhood employers and organizations, even colleges. We're gonna go ahead and we are working with them on bulk mobile, but that's a different meeting probably. RTD will set up a ticket users and provide training to the coordinators who are going to be listed on their contract, and it's easy that we provide the training, and it's a quick training, and the organization is going to be billed monthly and pay only for the tickets and passes that you are activated. For example, if you issue 50 tickets but only 20 were activated, we're going to bill you only for the 20 tickets activated, not for the 50 that you requested. So that one is a good point. And it's gonna be that you can, through the bulk mobile ticketing, you can get discounts for seniors 65 and over, youth, people with disabilities, individuals with disability, I should say, and all the regular discounts that RTD offers. Okay, with this program, I have to mention that those are, the tickets are regular prices. There is no discount, but is the advantages that is going to give you the opportunity to push the ticket directly to the employees, and we are going to only bill for the tickets that you that are activated, so you don't have to pay for all the tickets. So do you have any questions about these two programs, Ecopass and mobile ticketing?
It looks like there might be a question or two in the chat.
Yeah, Emily's asking if you need an app, which yes, our TD does have an app that allows you to get the mobile tickets as well as to find schedules and time.
Yeah, I would like to explain something, okay, because people get confused. We have the mobile ticketing for individuals online. That one doesn't require any contract signed by company. And we also offer the bulk mobile ticketing is the one that I just talked about it. So those are two different. So yes, in both cases, they will need to download the mobile ticketing app, and we will provide all the information. If you are interested to sign up, I can send you more details. And also when we send the contract and we create the account, we also send the QR code and everything so you can share with your employees. You will need to, they will need to download the app before you make the first push, because otherwise the system is gonna fail and it's gonna be rejected. So they're not gonna be able to get the tickets. But yes, they will need an app, and they will need to create an account through an email. So yes, good question.
And don't forget that Boulder businesses not already on these programs are often eligible for reimbursements, which is a great special opportunity we have here in Boulder. And thanks to the city of Boulder for just making this happen and doing our best to support transit.
Oh yes, that's a good, thank you for mentioning that, because right here in Denver, we get a lot of questions about that. How over there people in Boulder get discounts and everything, and we don't get, but it's up to the, the city of Boulder. And I wish we have the opportunity to have the same here in Denver, but yes, that's a good incentive for companies too.
And I'll just quickly interject too, the focus of what we're talking about today is through the business program. If anybody's on the call and is interested in neighborhood programs as well, do feel free to reach out to Elaine or I, BTC in general. We can help out and steer information, get you information regarding the neighborhood Ecopass program as well too. We have some interesting exciting pilots, I guess I'd say, with residential neighborhoods as well, with mobile ticketing options too. So if you're on the call and not part of a business, but more from the residential neighborhood side, please do reach out to us as well.
Yes, and you can also reach me too, because like I said, right now they, because I asked exactly what I need to present, and they told me that Ecopass and mobile, but I'm open, because I'm part of the market development. So I know about neighborhood Ecopass, Ecopass, nonprofit, we have like 7 different programs. So yes, if you have any question, please don't hesitate and contact me, and I can send you all the details, requirements, prices, and everything. Thank you, Karen.
And thank you so much, Reina. We really appreciate you. And I appreciate you because Reina is always my go-to person at RTD when I have questions. And she's been very responsive and patient with, whatever questions. So we do have her email address available for you. It's on a later slide, and Teresa Rinker, also from that division, is also a great resource.
Yeah, Teresa Rinker is our manager in our department. So yes, if I'm not answering, you can contact Teresa and she can also help you. Yes.
Wonderful. So we do need to move on. Thank you again so much, Reina, for participating today. And we just appreciate all you do. And I think this is such a great opportunity to have for many businesses, I think these prices are a little more attractive than what people have felt in years past. And we really hope to see an uptick in that. And, I can attest, I have felt pretty comfortable riding transit. And, you know, there's not quite as many riders. Buses aren't typically totally full, so you can space out as needed. And I've been getting my bike on the bus.
You know,
That's
I'm suggesting so much to Teresa, and she's also suggesting to our senior management, you know, because we used to have the Flex Pass program, and that one was a good alternative, but right now we don't have that available. So we're trying to push, you know, that if they can allow us to bring it back and offer, you know, down the Flex Pass was a monthly pass that companies were getting some type of discount for depending on the number of passes that they were purchasing. So that one was a good program too as an alternative, you know, but we'll see what happens. And I just want to say something for 2023, we are just, RTD is doing some, so RTD is in the middle of doing a fair study and equity analysis right now. RTD hire a consultant where we're looking is for rates, discounts, and pass programs. There will be probably a change in our passes for the better, okay? And we hope to have those results for mid-year or fall next year before we start our renewal season for 2023. So I hope something better is coming. So thank you for having me, okay? I'll be in the discussion just in case somebody else has any other questions.
Real quickly on that note, Rena, so do you think that the changes will be instituted for 2023 already for the past programs, or would that be coming in 2024?
Actually, they are planning to implement it for 2023, but depends on the results of that analysis. Probably, I don't know if they're gonna be approved by the time that we have to do our renewal season. We normally start at the beginning of October, so I don't know if that one is gonna be too soon, so I cannot guarantee, but I hope it's gonna be for 2023. Thank you.
all right. Thank you again. And any further questions, feel free to send them on to us or Raina directly, and we will hope we can get those answered. With that, I would like to turn things now to Sandy Syrian, who has been the coordinator for Community Cycles on this amazing e-bike grant that Community Cycles was awarded from the Colorado Energy Office. So welcome, Sandy.
Thanks, Elaine. So nice to be here. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with a little presentation on it here. So, oh, good. I was worried I wouldn't be able to see the chat screen, and actually I don't know that I do. So if questions come up, I will try to be aware of those. So we, Community Cycles is part of the Can Do Colorado e-bike program. And that is a program that was sponsored from a grant from the Colorado Energy Office. The state is piloting 6 programs around the state, so everywhere from Pueblo to Vail. And the purpose is to provide e-bikes to low-income essential workers with the hopes of them adopting this energy-efficient, non-polluting mode of transportation in order to maximize air quality benefits. So we'll break that down into those 2 little sections there and talk about each. Okay, there we go. So these are things you all probably already know, but as I was taking over the program management with this, it was actually very interesting for me to learn that according to the U.S. Department of Energy, 60% of motor vehicle trips are less than 6 miles. And 75% are less than 10 miles. And I think I already knew this one, that commuting to work is, of course, one of the biggest causes of transportation emissions that we have out there. You know, so with this program, we are hoping to set an example for other programs like this to demonstrate that an e-bike can make a difference in carbon emissions. We looked for people who currently were driving to work, and we're willing to try riding an e-bike instead. We did consider commuter trips of any length and actually all types of commuting. You know, some folks actually frequently took an Uber or a Lyft to work, you know, bus, regular bike. So we had all sorts of different folks who joined our program. Give this all a shot. So we are actually a two-part program. So we are actually in the end going to be working with 50 e-bikes. 50 of the bikes we have given to individuals who actually own the bike in exchange for us being able to collect the data of their transportation habits so that we can show that riding the e-bike is saving more carbon emissions than if they were even sharing a ride. And we'll look at a few of those statistics as well. I was happy to see Kevin Cross from Boulder B-Cycle on this call. In case anybody has any questions about that, he can help us answer questions about that. Because we're also in the first quarter of 2022, Boulder B-Cycle is going to provide 50 e-bike passes also for 2 years, so that we can get low-income folks who live maybe in Boulder Housing Partners, housing developments, and who also work near a Boulder B-Cycle station. Or even if they want to make a B-Cycle part of their commute, maybe they can ride it to a bus where they're maybe taking the bus further than we have Boulder B-Cycle stations. So yeah, and we were happy to work with area employers and agencies to help us identify participants, which was very important to make the process smoother. So within the University of Colorado, Boulder Community Health, and then of course Boulder County Housing and Human Services and Boulder Housing Partners, so that we could identify those folks. So we had over 100 people apply for the 50 e-bikes with the ownership model. And then this winter we're going to be opening the applications up then for the Boulder B-Cycle passes. So that's how our program is structured. We started in June accepting applications. And in July, we had 5 different orientations where folks picked up their bikes. Elaine and BTC were key players with us on that to help ensure that people got the help that they needed, planning routes, giving out maps. And it was just so heartening. It was just a very heartfelt events of just seeing these people ride an electric bike for the first time was really incredible. All of the photos that you're seeing in this presentation were sent to me by participants who were just so excited to have their bikes. They just shared photos with me. So that was also very fun. Right now we're 6 months into the program. And I actually am going to turn this over. We have one of our participants joining us today named Paul Humes. So Paul, if you are muted, I just wanted to give a quick update of that we're 6 months into the program of just what that looks like from one of our writers right now.
Yeah, thank you, Sandy. I have nothing but appreciation for everybody who was involved in this program. I've been a bike rider, obviously, most of my life, but never really integrated it into my commute, my regular commute. And so this program enabled me to really go from riding my bike maybe to work a couple times a month to probably 3 to 4 times a week when the weather's right. I make it a priority to do that. For me, particularly, I have a 3-year-old daughter who goes to daycare, or goes to preschool, I should say. And I latch my Burley bike trailer to the back of the bike, and she and I commute to preschool pretty much all through the year, often. And it means a lot to me because we can go so much further. I live in Louisville, work in Boulder, and even on Saturdays, especially during the summer, I'd put the Burley on and she and I would ride way into Boulder to go to the Boulder Library or, just to ride around. And so it's been wonderful. I think one of the things the program really nailed was instead of just giving the bike itself, they also supplied like saddlebags or the panniers, which allowed me to put my computer in there. And Elaine, I suppose you were there. Yeah, we actually lived right across from one of the stations. Elaine said she enjoyed watching my daughter get her bike, and it was a joy. It was a joy for me too. She was really excited. We went on a ride that very day. But yeah, they provided the panniers, a really substantial lock. In my particular case, one of the challenges is bike parking, and so I'm not quite willing to give up my car because I live on a second story. So I actually, my car has basically become a storage unit. I lock my bike to my car, and I put it really in the back of the hatchback that I have. So even State Farm, my insurance company, asked me one day, it's like, "Are you driving anymore?" Because my mileage went down so much. So yeah, it's been wonderful. If anybody has any specific questions, I'd be happy to do that. Answer anything I can.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah, so we're just really finding, most folks who started off strong are still going strong with writing at least 2-3 days a week. And of course, it's helped solidify people's commuting habits with having the better weather this fall. Unseasonal and disconcerting, but still better for alternate forms of commuting. So our commitment with or I should say the participants' commitment for reporting goes through fall of 2023. So they have a little ways to go, but I think we're off to just a really good start for pretty much everybody. So we are tracking participant cycling habits on a smartphone app. I have the website on here. It's canbikeco.org. And that is a website with this for the smartphone app, which was developed by NREL. So they were one of our community partners for the state to develop that. So there are all sorts of statistics that you can see from all 6 of the programs. So I wanted to share, oh, I'm sorry, I went back too far. Okay. Sorry. I wanted to share one of the slides of statistics that we have about this. So I'm going to take another drink of water while y'all look at this one. So this is for the Community Cycles program on here. So you can see the green is actually on the bottom one where it's car drove alone. That is actually how much carbon reduction that all of our participants had for October. So that was a very fun statistic. It's one of the stats that they have with that. But it just really shows, within 1 month, and it actually, I had a drop in ridership with it getting darker in the mornings and evenings. So we had 52% of participants were recording their rides in that. So, but that one is definitely a good statistic to be able to show with that. So there's all sorts of fun statistics on that. I don't know why am I going around here? Okay, we looked at that, we did that one. Okay, oh yeah, the impact, and then yeah, we went right to the statistics here. So so kind of just what comes next for the program. So the Colorado Energy Office is really looking at these 6 pilot programs with a variety of the deployment models to see, what's working, what's not working, what can be scaled up, what can be easily replicated. They are, of course, hoping for new sources of funding. And of course, us folks here in Boulder are hoping to get some additional funding because we have had such enthusiastic participants with the program. One other I thought was a point of interest for this group in particular is that Community Cycles has applied for a grant, and Sue Prant, who's our executive director, might be able to speak up a little bit more about this, but we've applied for a grant that would get 300 electric bikes into the hands of in-commuters. So we're hoping to further engage folks who are coming into Boulder to partly just, cut down on the amount of traffic coming into Boulder from those who live in the outlying areas. We have not received word on that grant, and I'm not sure when that would come, but that's another way that Community Cycles is trying to engage, folks who work in Boulder to get them out of their cars and onto an e-bike. So that's a fun one too. And then I think my next one is, yes, so thank you to our partners, and to see if anybody has questions. If you have questions, we've got Kevin Krause here from Boulder B-Cycle, Clark Ryder with the University of Colorado, who is one of our partners with identifying participants, and Sue Prant, who's the Community Cycles executive director who wrote the grant, and of course Elaine from BTC who helped with a lot of different parts with this too. So so we'll see what folks have here. So I have a question from Carl. I saw it suggested that an e-bike actually uses less energy than a conventional bicycle. That's actually a really interesting concept there. So that also makes me curious, because I know with if somebody had usually rides a regular bicycle to work and they were switching to an e-bike, it did count as a little bit of a carbon emission just because of the charging of the bike. So, but I'm actually very curious about that. I'll have to make a note and Google around for that and see what they have to say. Okay. Oh, and the age of participants. Good question. Good question, Landon. Who asked about the ages of participants and any high school or college students involved. I don't have any high schoolers because the target, our audience from the way the grant was written was for low income essential workers. So I didn't have any high schoolers that fit both of those things. I do have a few folks who are who might be college students in addition to working in an essential worker position. So we do have a few folks who work at the university, or I'm sorry, who attend the university, who are also part of that program. And my age spread, I would say, is from mid-20s. I have a few young folks, and then I have a few folks who are, when they applied for the program, one of their questions was that they were thinking of retiring within the next possibly 2 years. So they asked if they could still apply, knowing that they might retire within that time. And, we said, sure, because who knows? So yeah, I have folks from their 20s to their 60s. So it's a really good age range on that. And Clark, you raised your hand, and then Karen.
Yeah, two things. So, I think at CU, we were really happy to be involved in this, and we got a lot of positive interest from our employees. And I think, I would love to figure out a way that we could do this for students, and particularly, a lot of our grad students who are living in the real world have to live outside or on the edges of Boulder because they can't afford to live in town. They're getting paid very minimally for research projects often. So I think that they're kind of a golden community that we could work with. We just need to figure out the funds. Landon, I have a question for you. So I do the trip tracker every month for my kids who are at BVSD. And one of the last questions on there asks people that have ridden a bike or driven if they're in an electric vehicle or electric bike. And I'd be curious to know what those numbers look like, if you know, or if you could find out for us.
Hi, Clark. Hi, everybody. That's a fair question. My colleague, Amy Thompson, is overseeing the program, and that is a fresh question. And I think maybe just this last survey, it was asked. I can connect the two of you to see what we're learning. Obviously, it's not hardcore data. It's to get a sense of the trends and the interests in different technologies and travel behavior. But I'll connect you. Good question.
Thanks.
Thank you. Karen.
Yeah, I was curious what this group thinks about as far as security and locking issues that this brings up, I'm thinking both at home, but also at your destination. I think it's a lot easier to have a secure locking generally at home, particularly if you have a really beefy bike lock. But the locks, which are awesome, but like there's, super heavy as far as transporting, and then say you want to go to the grocery store or something for a couple hours. So I'm curious what users have been experiencing and recommendations. Also just, brings up the question then of having more secure bike parking, or say, for instance, like grocery stores having, destination, basically more so the concern is at the destination, and even also at work, like a lot of, I think, like the essential workers maybe working at a company that doesn't have secure bike storage facilities. So yeah, just would love to get your thoughts and feedback on that.
Yeah, and certainly for the folks who live in low income housing, that was one of the issues. If somebody lived on the second or the third floor and these bikes weigh 50 pounds, if folks were not able to take their bikes up into their apartments, Paul had a unique way of dealing with that, with using his car. So yeah, it definitely is an issue for locking a very expensive bike. Paul.
I'm still in the honeymoon phase of the program, but I've really I've treated the bike with so much care that as far as finding a place to lock at a location, I'll take the extra time to kind of find a little bit more space than maybe I would have with my other bikes. And so, driving or going a little bit further to find a suitable bike lock has been the case. I think obviously the initiative to find more bike parking in general is always ongoing. But I also have a smaller lock that I had with my old bike that has a beefy chain, a beefy like U-lock, and I've been able to carry that with me. So that's another alternative, is that big one that I store overnight. But when I'm traveling to the store, I use my smaller chain that seems sufficient during the time, because I can at least get one U-lock on and then use the rope that's a little easier to cut, just kind of as an extra security. One other unintended benefit is the amount of conversations I've actually had about the e-bike. Certainly there was probably an idea about that, but I've had friends actively either get an e-bike after talking to me, or
great.
I've had a buddy that converted an old mountain bike, which gave him actually more power than the e-bike that I have now at a lower cost. He just had to put in the tech time to do it. And so I'm constantly, if I roll up on the e-bike, I'm having a conversation about it. And so word of mouth. And then just again, from my daughter's perspective, she's watching me bike to work every day. And so I'm automatically imprinting onto the next generation. And so as far as one of my favorite things about the program, it's talking about it, and then just having people kind of see that it's possible. So
Great. Yeah. Okay, Sue, and then I want to be conscious of time here too. So Sue, what's your comment?
Oh, just a few things I was going to add. So as part of the project at Boulder Community Health, we built a bike storage facility. So that was written into the grant, and we do have a number. That was one of the workplaces where we solicited employees to, because frontline workers, to give bikes to. We did give, as Paul said, we gave each participant a really large lock. It was it's like $100 kryptonite lock. It's a big chain. It is big and heavy, but people have a motor, so it sort of makes up for it. And there was, the third thing was the other grant that Sandy mentioned is a Dr. Cog TDM grant, and we won't hear about that until January. So, and great presentation, Sandy. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We could call for one last question, or Elaine, is it time to move on?
We're going to go ahead and move on. We wanted to kind of get a breakout discussion opportunity happening for people, but thank you so much. That
Yes.
program has just been so exciting and great to see how many people got the bikes. I think I've mentioned I was there for every distribution, and just the joy and delight, because I've always enjoyed that sense of I've got a new bike, isn't this
Very.
fun? And e-bikes just sort of magnify that. So anybody who has not yet tried the B-Cycle, their new e-bikes, I do recommend that as well. They are also really fun. Amanda and I went out riding one day. We had like some standard red bikes, had the little hills just up to some of the intersections in town. It felt like, okay, that's some work. And then we got to the e-bikes, went, what a breeze. So I think this is really kind of a game-changing technology. Up next, our hope was to break out and have some discussions. I've put a variety of questions in the chat. If your group could just kind of address even a couple of these questions, that would be fabulous. And we would like to come back, I guess, Amanda, if we could do this for about 6 minutes and have some time to come back, and each group can maybe say something they gleaned from the discussion. So my wizard Amanda, I believe, is going to break us out into groups. And
Yep,
Elaine-
they're about to go.
Elaine, did you say that the questions are in the chat, or maybe I'm just not seeing them?
you know, I put it to Amanda, not to everyone. Oops.
No, no problem.
Let's try one more time. Thank you. Do you see those now? There we go.
Yes, great, excellent, thank you.
All right, so you should have a room to join.
All right, it looks like we are coming back together. Since we didn't have very long, I just figured random breakouts would be the best. Hopefully we had a good distribution. Does anybody remember what room you were in? I don't know if trying to say group number 1, 2, 3 or anything will help, but did anybody come with some takeaways? What was the focus of the discussion? And if somebody knows that they were in group number 1, I'd love to hear from you.
Go ahead.
Elaine,
Judy.
I don't know what group number mine was, but I'll tell you that I'm new to this call, and the folks in my group said Elaine and Karen always do such a good job with these meetings. That was specifically Landon who said it. So thank you, Elaine and Karen.
Well, thank you too. And I think I was in group 2. So I will say we were a group where we're all kind of already in transportation, so excited about it. But it was really nice to hear people very fascinated by that discussion on hydrogen. So hoping that looking at future technologies would be beneficial. Sue, I see your hand raised.
So I guess I'll reiterate what I just said, which seemed like seconds ago because it was. But Kevin agreed, and a few other people in the room. What I've always felt with BTC, or now moving forward with the BTC relationship with the chamber, is that BTC could play a greater role in advocacy. And what I was speaking to was a few different things. I've worked on a number of ballot measures and this is not the same staff as is there today. I agree, Karen and Elaine do an awesome job. But it might be some of the same board members, and I'm not sure how the old board is carried over to the chamber relationship. But anyway, I've worked on certain ballot measures, and even ones that were very transportation specific. And the BTC board was hesitant to support those, which seemed to the detriment of both BTC and to the measures, although the measures passed. But so I would look for more leadership from BTC on things that actually would help our issues, ballot measures to support more transportation funding, or citywide Ecopass or things like that. And the other thing I would look to BTC to do would be to advocate better to the city and or the county. I'm not sure the jurisdiction that BTC has, but for things like really equity within transportation funding and how our money is spent within our budget. And the example, other things I brought up, which were sort of not quite as, a little bit more specific. So like I'm on the BJAD board, and the car share car sits in the garage and we can't get a parking space on the street. And, it's not something that the BJAD board really has like the mechanism to work on. But if BTC were sort of more kind of advocating to the city, maybe things like that could be answered, especially things that are sort of kind of orphaned issues. Community cycles does a really good job taking care of bikes. It doesn't seem like some of the issues have as much of an advocacy component towards them, the car share, transit, and other things like that. And it would be great if BTC, with the support of its members and businesses in the chamber, was really kind of a voice for some of those things. So that's what I would look to kind of the new iteration of BTC to be. I'm not sure how this exactly relates to ETC meetings, but ETC meetings just being a tool of this new way of looking at things. Thank you.
Thank you. And Emily, were you in a different group? Do you have anything to bring back to us?
I was in the same group with Sue, so.
And I was in that group as well, and I was picking their brain. We had pretty much everybody on this call, I'd say, is more or less transportation experts right now. So, but our group too, we had Kevin from B-Cycle, Sue, and Emily, and Natalie as well. So I picked their brain a little bit more on e-bikes, but also Sue, I really appreciate your input as well. And I do feel, and glad Jill's on the call as well too. And I do feel our new relationship now with as being part of the chamber does allow us to do more directly with advocacy. Also your question regarding BJAD and parking, very pertinent as well, because we, City of Boulder is restarting another AMPS group and talking about curbside management. Specifically, we'll be talking about like all the districts and Boulder Junction and so forth. So very pertinent, and definitely those are the type of things that I would like us to see advocate for. Most folks on this call know too that I was a former director for car share, so I have a very soft spot in my heart for looking out for car share as well too, and getting like, you know, curbside piece, like parking was such a key piece for car sharing, and I completely agree, Sue, that you know, that car over Boulder Junction should have, you know, we had asked for an on-street space from the start from like 10 years ago, and it hasn't happened yet. But I think those things are primed to happen now, and that's all really great input.
And Jill?
Yeah, I wanted to address Carl's question. So how many businesses are represented by the chamber? About 1,300 with over 60,000 members of the workforce included in that 1,300. And then I just wanted to expound on what Karen was just saying, and to Sue's question or point. BTC is going to live under the advocacy department from now on at the chamber, and will be much more engaged with advocacy. We're going to, you know, really work to make that more robust and cohesive. So look for that, to us to be more engaged, starting in January. And please reach out anytime you want that engagement.
And specifically the two, I'll ask if anyone on this group wants to reach out to either myself or Elaine directly as well too, as we look to, I was mentioning in our group that we're looking to reinvigorate our, I'll say like our ETC programming, and really, you know, make sure that we're targeting the programming to what our audience needs and what would be most useful. So if you have suggestions for us for future ETC meetings, topics to cover, what would be, you know, what would be most helpful, we'd love to hear that directly from you. So we're open to any and all input. So please share your thoughts with us on that. And I want to also just say that this meeting, so this is pretty much wholly organized by Elaine. Elaine gets all the credit. I basically, this is Elaine's organized this whole thing. So Elaine, and thanks to Amanda from the chamber and so forth for helping out with the tech aspects as well.
Yeah, I want to give a big shout out. Thank you to Jill and Karen for all you do at the chamber and BTC making it happen, and to Anant and Amanda for their technical support making today happen, and thank all of you for attending. I found it interesting. I hope you did too. We will be back March 8th, and I think we've had a few hiccups on our YouTube. We should be back on it. The meeting should be recorded with this going up there. So if you missed any part of that, or want to see what we've done historically, do visit us on YouTube. And thank you all for attending and sticking it through till the end here today. And I'll say one more time, March 8th is the next meeting, which I have planned nothing for yet. So it's just fertile ground for what's next for that. So thanks everybody, and have a great day.
Thanks everyone. Really appreciate your participation.
Thank you.
And thanks to all the presenters.
Thank you, Amanda.
You're welcome.